know what we're looking for yet, but we've still got some time. As attorneys, I suggest the two of you think the case over again.
It would be awkward if you got all tongue-tied on stage during the trial.
All right, thanks for your help and for the snacks.
It was nothing. A small task for the Spina di Rosula. Silver, Malus, it's time to go. I'll be back if I find anything new.
All right, it's time to put our heads together. We've got to get our defense ready for the trial. Oh, it's probably gonna be a long and difficult case. There's no point in worrying about that now. We just need to prepare. Here, take Paimon's notes. They should help you review the situation.
Here!
My apologies, but access to the venue is
What do we do? The whole situation is so confusing. Good plan. Impossible things don't just happen. We'll get to the truth one way or another.
just relax. Even if everyone else suspects Lenny and Lynette, at least we will be supporting them from the stands. Besides, I doubt Farina understands any more about what happened than we do.
Thanks, Navia. Well, we'll be going then.
Best of luck to you.
Ah, finally, you're back. Well, how did your investigation go?
To be honest, you might be disappointed.
No. We're already very grateful that you were willing to help.
Well, now, don't you all look disappointed. Don't tell me that your investigation came up empty-handed. That was to be expected, of course. The guilty can never produce proof of their innocence. But don't let that stop you. I shall be terribly disappointed should you, my most anticipated foe, concede so easily.
Since both parties are present, I declare that the trial regarding the magic show incident is now in session. Firstly, in order for the audience to understand the causes and results of the incident, could we please have Mr. Linney explain the trick?
Yes, of course. I will explain while Lynette demonstrates on stage. All the necessary items have been prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Linney. In that case, I take your statement to be that you ran to and remained hidden within the magic box in the audience stands once the trick began, and thus could not have committed the crime. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor.
In that case, I call upon the prosecution. Lady Farina, do you wish to refute his statement in any way?
Why, of course I do. Allow me to take the first shot and break this case wide open. Mr. Linney is clearly lying. There is no way you could have been in the box the whole time if you were to abduct Halsey and murder Cowell. In fact, I'd say you were hardly in that tunnel at all.
That is simply your hypothesis based on the presumption that I'm guilty.
Oh, is that so? And if I may ask, what did you hear while you were inside your box?
The roaring countdown of the crowd, of course. That's how I kept track of the time and built anticipation for the finale.
And you didn't hear anything else at all? Nothing that might leave an impression of any kind?
No, nothing.
I see. But when the count reached 30 seconds or so, there was a thud. One so loud that I believe practically everyone heard it.
Huh?
Hey, hang on! Something's not right here.
Yeah, I'm sure he could have heard a noise that loud from inside the box.
I was right by the box and I definitely heard the thud.
Look at those scales. Could those mean...
Well then, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to use the words of the magician himself. You never know what can happen in the blink of an eye. Indeed, it seems his alibi can also collapse in the blink of an eye. Of course, I have armed myself to do far more than smash your alibi. Confidence cannot go unfounded, and my foundations are rock solid. Tell me, aren't you and Lynette actually from the House of the Hearth?
The House of the Hearth?
No wonder they did something like this.
So the serial disappearances were the Fatui's doing. Now it all makes sense.
I've got a feeling that what happened on stage probably wasn't just an accident.
That's irrelevant. Our identities have nothing to do with what happened.
Indeed. Then perhaps you could tell us everything that happened during that 1 minute. Your first priority is to prove yourself innocent, after all. I'm sure there is little that needs to be kept secret now. Unless your script already has holes in it. The Outlander is speechless. My, oh my, don't they look flabbergasted? Now comes the infighting and discord, I suppose. This was almost too easy. Good thing I made all those preparations. Seems the all-nighter I pulled last night is really paying off.
Hey, Linny, why didn't you tell us this before?
Order! Order! Mr. Linney, allow me to re-establish the facts. Lady Farina has raised 2 points. First, when the thud was heard in the Opera House, you were neither in the box nor the tunnel. Second, you and Ms. Lynette are both members of the House of the Hearth. Are these claims true? Please answer my question, Mr. Linney.
I'm sorry. Yes, they're true, Your Honor.
I knew it!
Well, that's it. We might as well move on to the sentencing already.
What should we do now?
Granted. In that case, what is your request?
Is that really necessary? They're already as good as guilty.
The defendant deceived their own attorneys. What is there left to discuss?
Order! Order, I say! Your request is reasonable, and we shall adjourn. This trial will reconvene in 1 hour.
So you would stick to Mr. Linney's defense even after knowing what you do now? You certainly have more professionalism than I thought. In that case, my dear audience, let's allow the joy of victory to steep for a little while longer.
Well, this is awkward. I didn't think the Hydro Archon would dig all that up. I'm sorry, Traveler and Paimon.
Yeah, sorry.
Paimon doesn't know where to start. We trusted you two. We based our entire reasoning on the assumption that you weren't bad guys. Not to set the wrong tone or anything, but Paimon's really mad!
I'm very sorry. I know you're angry, and reasonably so, but please, let me explain. I know you've clashed with the Vitui several times before. I wouldn't be surprised if just hearing the word is enough to make you upset. But our organization is very, very large, and the Harbingers have very different personalities and goals.
Right now, we want to save people. As many as we can.
That's right. I'm sure we're on the same page when it comes to this nation and the disaster that its people might face. I knew if it weren't for our respective identities, we could become good friends. That's why I didn't wish to flat out lie to you, but chose to hide some details instead. The truth is very important, but being completely transparent about everything would see us spending more effort than we need to. Right. So, you be the judge. Heck, if I were you, I fear that I'd even struggle to trust me at this point. You met a Fatus who works as a magician, a trickster by trade. All by coincidence, too. But still, I'm asking you to trust me. I am no criminal. At least, not in this case.
Sorry. Please forgive us.
Well, you both say that, but... Right, let's hear your answer first, and no lies now!
Of course. I'll answer any question you ask. We've been trying to find out how the Oratrice operates. We want to know why it has a consciousness. Why can it deliver sentences accurately? During our investigations, we learned that the machine's core is beneath it. From that moment on, Lynette and I have been designing this box swap trick with the objective of getting close to the core.
Is that why you needed a whole minute?
That's right. In truth, the audience would take about 75 seconds to count down from 60, while I would only need 15 to get to the opposite box. So, after jumping into the tunnel, I accessed the Opera House basement via the vent, and went to investigate the room in which the core is stored.
That air vent was created during the construction of the tunnel specifically to execute this step.
Well, nothing. As soon as I reached that room and was about to investigate, I heard someone's voice. Which should have been impossible, of course. I was quite certain that I was the only one in the room. That voice seemed to recognize me and tried to speak to me. I chose to err on the side of caution and retreated the way I came. On the way back, I saw the broken vase and the clothes on the ground, but the countdown was almost finished, so there wasn't time to give it any thought. After that, the homicide occurred just as you saw.
Well, that explains why you didn't hear the thud.
Because of that prophecy I told you about, of course. We must know all we can about this nation's secrets in order to deal with that prophesized crisis.
That's the only way we can save everyone.
So, there you have it. The whole truth. I swear, I didn't hide anything from you this time. It was never my wish to proceed under this cloud of mistrust either. But like I said earlier, you can be the judge. If you want to leave because you don't trust the Fatui, there's nothing I can do to stop you.
Well, Traveler, you decide. Paimon will follow your lead however you choose.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for giving us a chance.
The current problem is that the scales are tipped pretty badly against you two. If we want to refute the Hydro Archon's accusations, we're gonna need a seriously watertight defense. Huh? Oh, Paimon thinks she gets what you mean.
Once, there was a glorious kingdom established among the heavens. From that kingdom came a crowned heir, tasked with seeking out the Genesis Pearl from the kingdom of darkness. The first crowned heir began her journey of seeking the pearl. But she was deceived, and the memory of her noble origins faded. She now believed that she was the queen of the kingdom of darkness. But take heart. A second crowned heir had already taken up the path where the first had stumbled. This is the story of your journey, of your tale to be told.
Everybody stand back!
Up to it, Manzai!
I'm going in! Rain outlines your fate. Off we go! Teamwork is dreamwork! Let me weave you a verse. Stray clouds converge! Skyward! Seize the skies! Everybody stand back! Huh? Ow! Off we go!
Mighty mythical beast! Congratulations! Hey, what gives?
I'm going in! Let's light it up! Witness the power of Gua! Body and mind, yes! Teamwork is dreamwork!
Up to it, Manzai!
Surrender and be gentle.
Make yourselves a room!
Try not to enjoy this too much.
You're toast! Nice and spicy!
Many happy returns!
Step on up! Let the magic begin! Everybody stand back! Huh?
here!
Teamwork is dreamwork! Get out of here! Out of the way! Get out of here!
Mighty mythical beast!
I'm going in!
Too late for regrets! I'll catch up. As a good knight should. Out of the frying pan, into the fire! Race you!
Keep moving!
Dare to mess with me? Have fun with this gift!
Fracture!
Time to clean up!
Both parties have returned to their positions. Let us continue the trial. When last we left off, Mr. Linney acknowledged the new evidence presented by Lady Farina as fact. Therefore, Lady Farina may continue stating her reconstruction of the events.
That took long enough. Now then, if everyone would lend me their attention. At this stage, let's revisit that scene from Linney's perspective. As the countdown began, he entered the tunnel. When the flatbed trolley passed, he opened the box and got into an altercation with Halsey, which caused the loud thud. He did not realize that the sound could be heard by everyone in the opera house, which is why he claimed earlier that he could not hear the sound. Finally, he used the vase to knock her out, before making her change clothes to prevent others from recognizing her. At this time, Cowell arrived in the tunnel, having heard that strange noise, and caught Linney red-handed. So Linney proceeded to knock him out too before stuffing him into that box. Afterward, Linney passed the unconscious Halsey to his accomplice through the magic box in the audience stands, before operating the devices such that Cowell's death would be ruled an accident. And there you have it. That's the truth behind what happened.
Does the defendant's side have any objections to Lady Farina's description of the events?
The key to refuting Lady Farina is the order of events, what Linny experienced, and what he saw. Seems this won't produce a particularly effective rebuttal. Seems this won't produce a particularly effective rebuttal. Seems this won't produce a Seems this won't produce... According to Linny, he left via the vent after entering the tunnel. He couldn't have had that altercation with Halsey. Seems this won't produce a... Seems... Seems... Seems this won't produce a particular... Seems... Linny did not take part in the underground altercation. He only witnessed traces of the aftermath. Linny went to the room that contains the Oratrice's core. This is the actual truth.
Attention! Ace Detective Paimon has something to say! When the countdown started, Linny did indeed go into the tunnel. But he immediately used a vent to access the Opera House basement, which is where the underground core of the Oratrice is stored. Once he reached that area, he heard a voice in what should have been an empty room. Since he felt something was amiss, he returned immediately. The crime scene had already developed by the time he reached the tunnel again, and in order to complete the magic trick, he did not remain there for any length of time. Finally, he reached the surface, and that was when the accident happened from his point of view. Therefore, he's innocent! Paimon did it! Paimon actually managed to say all that! Wasn't it awesome?
In other words, you believe that he knew nothing of the incident?
That's right!
My reasoning?
If that's the case, then if Carol hadn't entered the tunnel, who was the the entire setup meant to kill. Assuming that what you say is true, Lenny only needed to kidnap the young girl to cause a new disappearance case. What would the point of killing someone on stage be?
Oh, they have a point.
That's right, you tell them! And that's why they're partners of mine. They've managed to turn things around.
Well, your denial is very strident, I'll give you that. But what Of course I do. If he had been in the magic box the whole time, how could he have not heard that sound? Why do you ask? You're saying that he wasn't?
Are you sure we don't need to give this more thought? Paimon thinks there's something off here. That's right! Lenny wasn't in the box or in the tunnel. That's why he didn't hear anything strange during the performance. This means that when the crime happened, Lenny had already entered the basement via the vent. The same clue you used to disprove his alibi has now become the best proof! How do you like that?
Well played.
To think you'd use such logic. Well then, if it wasn't Lenny who committed the crimes, then who was it?
The deceased's name is Cowell, Lenny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. Could there have been a third person involved? Is that really a possibility? Halsey is the missing person and an ordinary audience member. Or did she have her own scheme all along? Could there have been a third person involved? Is that really a possibility? The deceased's name is Cowell, Lenny's assistant.
Huh? Halsey, right? Are you serious? The killer was, in fact, Cowl, the deceased!
Oh, is that so? How interesting! Let's hear your reasoning then.
What I must do next is recreate the truth. What Cowl did, and how he went from would-be perpetrator to victim. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. The deceased's name is Cowl, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between them. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some... The deceased's name is Cowl, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? The deceased's name is Cowl, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal... It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. The deceased's name is Cowl, Linny's assistant. He... No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances. So where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. Halsey's clothing was in the tunnel, so there must have been some fear that she would attract attention. It would have been tough for both people to fit into that vent. They would likely have bumped into Linny as well. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances, so where would the criminal have wanted to take? The sound we heard may have come... It would have been tough for both people to...
What's wrong, Traveler? Are you still having trouble figuring things out?
I see how it is. So this was all just a bluff. And here I thought you had something to show for it. But it seems you're still far from the truth.
Look, since we're at a dead end, why not consider a different track? Just like the trick as it transpired, the end result must have been utterly different from the magician's initial design.
If only we knew how Halsey disappeared.
Well, that would be nice, but the tunnel only has 3 exits, and none of them seem very likely. And it's not like this is a magic trick where you can just make a real live person disappear. You know, like you did from that water tank, Lynette.
Excuse my interruption, dear opponents, but do you not see that the crowd is growing impatient? There is no greater sin in this opera house than an awkward delay in the performance.
If the defense is unable to make further effective arguments, we will move on to the next stage of the trial.
Linny was not in the tunnel at that moment, which gave our criminal ample time. The sound we heard may have come from a clash between the missing Halsey and the criminal. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. He would have been able to tamper with the equipment. No one entered or left the Opera House through its entrances, so where would the criminal have wanted to take Halsey? The vase was not broken by chance. It was used to cover important evidence. The water!
Paimon gets it! It all comes together if Halsey disappeared instead of being kidnapped. Lynette escaped from the water tank, vanishing gradually and leaving only clothes behind. If there's a similar method where a person could be transformed into water...
Oh, just a moment, please. I do hope you know how preposterous you sound at the moment. How could a person ever be transformed into water? This is reality we're talking about here, not some magic trick. Must we really? I should think that of anyone. Your friend Linny already knows this truth very well. Magic tricks are ultimately just illusions and misdirection. But Halsey's disappearance is very real. We're talking about 2 completely different things.
Even so, I trust the Traveler's judgment. The truth must be out there somewhere. Perhaps a new line of reasoning may open if we try to gather all the focal points that don't make sense. Since Cal was the deceased, we haven't placed much attention on him. But given that we aren't making much progress with the case, it wouldn't hurt to have a look at his belongings, would it?
People really do come up with all sorts of harebrained schemes when at the end of their rope. The way I see it, your suggestion that we broaden the scope of our investigation is nothing but a tactic for stalling the trial.
Nevertheless, I believe that this is a reasonable request on the part of an attorney. Since the trial does indeed appear to be at an impasse, I believe that additional evidence may help us make more progress. Guards, please step into the lounge and examine the personal effects of the deceased, Cowell.
We are still examining the items, but we have already made critical progress that we feel must be shared with everyone post-haste. We discovered several test tubes of fluid within Cowell's baggage, each labeled separately. The notebook in his backpack claims that these fluids are water from the primordial sea.
The primordial sea?
The note's contents also indicate that Cowell belonged to an organization that sells illegal drugs and that he had an accomplice. The notebook has many entries concerning safe usage of these fluids, in which the keyword dissolve appears many times. One of these tubes was labeled Opera Epiclese, along with yesterday's date. It is empty. The notes also state that these dissolution properties work exclusively on people from Fontaine. It's likely that Halsey was chosen as some sort of test subject. As such, we believe that the defense's hypothesis is, in fact, supported by sufficient evidence.
You've gotta be kidding! People dissolving into water?
Could something so ridiculous actually be true?
Wait a moment. This reminds me of a certain prophecy, but it's just a coincidence, isn't it?
Huh. If people can become water, does that mean that the water tank's real use was as a means to hide water stains? And if Cowell was targeting that girl... Wait just a minute. Could that mean... You two, with me, quick!
Demoiselle, wait! What about your partners?
Let's go. Just trust me.
Order! Order! It is undeniable that further examination of the deceased's personal effects has yielded some surprising results, but we cannot yet verify the veracity of these clues. Still, let us assume that these clues are indeed authentic, albeit with the understanding that Ms. Halsey has yet to be found. Guards, please continue examining the items along these lines. Mr. Linney, it appears your hypothesis is supported by the evidence, so please continue speaking.
Of course. Thank you, Your Honor. If we uphold this hypothesis, I believe that many of this case's seemingly unrelated clues can be connected together.
Right! Like the metal hook! That one didn't make sense at all. Let's think about this. Cowell's methods must have something to do with that water from the primordial sea.
The water from the primordial sea should already have been prepped before Halsey entered the magic box. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with this? I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. The rope that held the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and snapped. As such, the focus here is on the water and not the tank. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick, but was instead some form of triggering mechanism. I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. The water from the primordial... Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with this? I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. The deceased's name is Cowell, Linny's assistant. The rope that held the water tank up was lit by the fireworks and snapped. As such, the focus here is on the water and not the tank. I remember there was something else within the... Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with this? The rope that held the water tank up was... The water from the primordial sea should already have been prepped. I remember there was something else within the inner layer of that box. Lynette was in the magic box on stage the entire time. Did she have something to do with this? Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant for another magic trick, but was instead some form of triggering mechanism. The deceased's name is Cowell. I remember there was something else with... Lynette was in the magic box on... Now it seems like the hook rope was not meant... I remember there was something...
It's Ace